Good afternoon. Striking Canada Post workers are holding a rally to save the beleaguered Crown Corporation.
Employees from across the GTA have gathered, all part of a national day of action. CTV's Beth McDonnell is live on Queen Street East this afternoon with the latest. Beth.
Yes, Michelle and Nathan, Canada Post workers have been rallying for about the past hour. It is starting to break up. This shut down a section of Queen Street East, bringing streetcars to a standstill in Toronto. Police officers have been here. This is happening outside the office of MP Julie Dabrusin. She represents the riding of Toronto Danforth and is the Environment Minister. Workers gathered say there is another agenda happening surrounding the situation between them and the company. The workers are not happy with the federal government allowing Canada Post to make changes to the business. The workers are also angry because they say the company hasn't responded to them about the latest offer in 37 days. The company says in light of the go-ahead from the government, it's reassessing its new global offers and remains committed to reaching negotiated settlements with the union. Canada Post says it's facing $5 billion in losses since 2018 and has 45 days from September 25th to present its plan on how to move the postal system forward.
We need a good contract for postal workers, and we need to keep it as a public service with door-to-door delivery for all these constituents over here. They all are the middle class, they're working class. They want door-to-door delivery. It doesn't make sense for Purolator, which is owned by Canada Post, 91% of it, 9% making huge profits, which are private companies, private investors, and they'll be making huge profits, and they'll be delivering to the door, and in the meantime, Canada Post will be delivering to a community mailbox. That's not right.
I asked about the connection with Purolator. Canada Post says it operates independently from Canada Post. Canada Post says its own parcel volumes have dropped due to uncertainty, and now operations are also shut down because of the strike. I can tell you here on Queen Street East that the streetcars are moving just now in the last few seconds once again, and workers say they're going to be holding more rallies across the GTA to make sure their voices are heard. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. Still to come this noon hour, Michigan's governor makes a stop at Queen's Park. She and the premier talk tariffs as Donald Trump renewed his 51st state talk. We'll have that story in minutes. But first, two boys riding e-scooters were injured in separate collisions yesterday. A 10-year-old boy on an e-scooter collided with a vehicle downtown. It happened when the driver parked on the side of the street and opened his door. Toronto police say the collision happened near Parliament and Shooter around 5:45 p.m. The boy was taken to hospital with serious non-life-threatening injuries. An investigation is ongoing. And in Scarborough, a 12-year-old boy was injured after being struck by a vehicle while riding an e-scooter this morning. Now, this time it happened near Kingston and Mason Road shortly after 8:30. The boy was taken to hospital with serious injuries, though paramedics later said he was in stable condition. The driver involved remained at the scene. The cause is still under investigation.
Police are searching for suspects after a man was shot downtown last night. It happened just after 9:30 near Wellesley and Bleecker Street, south of Bloor. A man in his 30s was rushed to hospital with serious injuries, but he is expected to survive. Police have not released a suspect description. In Brampton, shots were fired and a vehicle caught fire early this morning. Police called to Caledon Crescent near Steeles and Kennedy at around 4:15 a.m. When they got there, they found a vehicle on fire and shell casings there on scene. They say at least one vehicle was struck by the gunfire. Video from the scene shows a bullet hole in the back window of an Escalade and a broken window on a Jeep. No injuries were reported.
We have more news in a moment, but first, here's a live look at the city this afternoon. Lots of sunshine on this first day of October. Clear skies, but it's a little bit cooler today than yesterday, so a light jacket, probably a good idea if you're heading outside. Lindsay Morrison is here with the current conditions, and again, another sunny, bright day.
Oh, we'll take that, Nathan. But you're right, it is noticeably cooler out there. Technically, though, we are just closer to seasonal today. This is where we expect to be at this time of year. Happy October, everyone. It is 15 degrees right now in the city of Toronto, a little bit warmer in Niagara Falls at 18 degrees, and close to 20 in the Windsor area right now. Satellite and radar, beautiful blue sky, no concerns when it comes to the weather today. It will remain dry for your outdoor plans. We are tapping into an easterly wind once again, and some communities are feeling that northerly breeze. So that's contributing to it feeling a little cooler out there today. Forecast daytime high 18 degrees. You'll notice that that is near normal, and this is a bit of a one-off. We're going to gradually warm up again as we head into the weekend. And I must say, the first weekend of October is going to feel a little more like July. We'll take you through the 7-day forecast coming up. For now, Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. The Jays are waiting to find out who they'll be playing as they prepare to start their playoff run.
But it's not a rest day for the team, who will play the first of 2 inter-squad games this afternoon. CTV Sean Leithong is live outside Rogers Centre this noon hour with more. John.
Well, Michelle and Nathan, the Jays are playing an inter-squad game because this would actually be the longest break they've had all season. 6 days, longer than even the All-Star break. So they want to play these 2 games just so they can stay sharp while they wait to find out who will win the wild card series between the Yankees and the Boston Bruins. And those 2 teams played in New York last night, and here's what happened.
And Bregman down the line. That's a fair ball off the wall. He'll head to second. He will be in there with the double, and insurance from Trevor Story. It's 3-1 Red Sox.
The Boston Red Sox winning 3-1 last night against the New York Yankees. I apologize for calling them the Bruins earlier. I've been thinking about hockey because it's that time of year. But they take a 1-0 lead in their series against the Yankees, and it is a best 2 out of 3. So the Boston Red Sox could be moving on with 1 more win. Now, the Blue Jays are getting the field ready here at the Rogers Centre, where they will play an inter-squad game that features Blue Jays and some Buffalo Bisons today and tomorrow. The game itself will be about 4 or 5 innings. And fans are welcome to come in, with first pitch happening at 4 o'clock. Also, what's happening right now is the team is meeting with the media, and General Manager Ross Atkins is speaking to the media right now. Let's listen in to hear what he has to say.
What have you learned, I guess, or what have you taken from other teams in the past that have had these 5 days off, and whether they've been successful or have not? Are there lessons learned there?
Yeah, we've downloaded what every team has done over the years, and talked about it, discussed it with our staff, talked about it internally. We talked about it a lot more internally before we clinched, before we brought it to our staff's attention, worked through some creative ideas, and ultimately decided upon the schedule that you guys see ahead of us the next couple of days.
And just, to more roster questions, as far as Santander goes, he's been back for a week, and we saw that he missed the Grand Slam by a couple of inches, but was 1 for 10 with 6 strikeouts. What did you see from him in the week, and is he ready to contribute in a postseason? Yeah,
I think the biggest thing is he was covering fastballs. He was on them. He wasn't getting beat by them. He did swing and miss some. There were some called strikeouts, but he was covering very good velocity at the top of the zone. So that was a huge benchmark for him and for us to be coming back relatively short order, and only having seen, you don't see that type of velocity as much in AAA. So that was very encouraging.
Hi, Ross.
Now, what we'll have going into you were just listening to GM Ross Atkins answering questions from the media. We found out that what it will look like when the divisional series actually starts on Saturday. The start times will vary, depend on who the Blue Jays are playing. It'll be a 4 o'clock start if they play the Yankees, a 1 o'clock start if they play the Red Sox here at the Rogers Centre. So we'll have to wait some time before we find that out. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leithong. I'll send it back inside.
Can't wait to see who it is. Thank you, Sean. In other news, the Premier met with the Governor of Michigan this morning at Queen's Park. Doug Ford says he hopes to keep the ties between the province and the state strong despite the Canada-U.S. trade war.
There's a tremendous amount of opportunity in economic development, creating the environment for both Michigan and Ontario to thrive and grow and prosper. And that's what we talk about. We're each other's largest trading partner. We do approximately $61 billion of two-way trade between Michigan and Ontario. And as we all know, and we've mentioned it 100 times, that parts in the auto sector can go back and forth across the border up to 5, 6, 7 times before it gets assembled in Michigan or it gets assembled in Ontario. But we're going to continue growing that relationship.
Our economic lives are intertwined. We are virtually cousins. Michiganders love Canadians, Americans do as well, and that's why I wanted to make sure to come to talk about how do we strengthen this relationship, how do we ensure that both of our economies continue to grow and produce good paying jobs for Ontarians? Yes, Ontarians. And Michiganders alike. And I think that our economic fates are intertwined, and that's why we take seriously the growth of this relationship.
The governor has spoken out against President Trump's tariffs, saying Michigan feels the pain from them faster and harder than almost any other state.
And on those tariffs, just days after the U.S. ambassador to Canada downplayed the president's previous comments about Canada becoming the 51st state, Donald Trump is bringing the idea back up.
It comes as Washington introduced new levies on softwood lumber and threatens more on a number of other industries. CTV's Colton Prale has the details.
For this Calgary carpenter, Donald Trump's latest tariffs are another rough patch.
Where am I going to go? Who am I going to sell to? It does add that little bit of extra stress.
The president signed an executive order for a 25% tariff on furniture and cabinets starting October 14th, and a new 10% tariff on softwood lumber on top of existing 35% anti-dumping duties on Canada. For Harley Griffin, it's already led to one American customer asking to return their purchase.
Now I have to deal with getting it back from them, making sure it's in good condition, paying taxes on the back end, coming back across the border, and then I have to eat all that cost.
And as Trump readies new salvos that could hurt the Canadian economy, he also returned to an old talking point around his planned North American missile defense system.
Canada called me a couple of weeks ago. They want to be part of it. To which I said, well, why don't you just join our country? You become 51.
Meanwhile, Trump is threatening more tariffs on movies, medium and heavy-duty trucks, and pharmaceuticals, warning the move could raise drug prices in other countries. Some experts say Canadians are unlikely to see the impact of price changes, but availability could become an issue.
I don't think there's any way to avoid that. And anything that causes disruption in the global supply chain is going to affect access to medicines in Canada.
Today, drug maker Pfizer announced plans to reshore $70 billion of production to the United States. That could impact Brandon, Manitoba, home to Pfizer's Canadian production hub.
The president graciously gave us a 3-year grace period that we will not be subject to the 232 tariffs, as long as, of course, we move the products here.
Colton Prale, CTV News, Ottawa.
Ontario's Auditor General has released reports on some major government programs.
From childcare to the Skills Development Fund, the AG has crunched the numbers. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris is live this noon hour with what the AG found. Siobhan.
Well, on one file in particular, Nathan, the Auditor General says that the process has not been fair, accountable, or transparent. That's talking about the process to dole out money from the Skills Development Fund. That's $2.5 billion that fund is. And that's just one of 4 areas that Shelley Spence took a closer look at today. She found that more than half the time, the Labour Minister overrode the opinions of staff to hand out that funding. Many of the groups that got it were lower ranked, but they had lobbyists working on their behalf, raising the specter of possible preferential treatment. The auditor also found a lack of proactive work and oversight of the Home Construction Regulation Authority. That's the group that licenses new home builders and sellers. She notes that the authority is only looking at credit scores to judge their financial health, not making sure that people in charge of construction have any technical know-how or are updating their education. Today's special reports include a deep dive on the $10 a day childcare program. Spence warns there needs to be changes in Ontario if we're going to hit that benchmark of $10 a day by the end of March. Ontario is adding tens of thousands of daycare spaces, but short of its target.
This has made it more difficult for families to find childcare spaces, including those on fee subsidies. We found that childcare enrollment decreased by 31% for families eligible for fee subsidies compared to 2019. Providing childcare for underserved and vulnerable populations is a way to support families so that they can participate in the labor market and or improve their education and overall social economic status.
Right now, Opposition Leader Marit Stiles is responding to these reports from the auditor. When it comes to the Skills Development Fund piece, she says it looks like corruption to her. Now, we have heard from the Premier this morning. He's defending that fund. We will get some fuller response from the government. A series of ministers will speak in about an hour. CTV will have more on this. John Woodward will have more on the Skills Development Fund at CTV News at 5 and 6. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. The federal NDP leadership race has another contender. Rob Ashton, the president of the International Longshore and Warehouse Union, entered the race this morning. He joins Alberta MP Heather McPherson, activist Eve Engler, and journalist Avi Lewis as declared candidates so far. Ashton is billing himself as the first working-class Labour candidate. The NDP will select a new leader March 29th. Today marks the day minimum wage goes up in 5 provinces across this country,
including here in Ontario. But some say it is not enough to make ends meet. CTV's Scott Hurst joins us with more on the bump in minimum wage. And Scott, what will this boost mean for people?
Michelle, hundreds of thousands of workers in this province, and as you mentioned, 4 others will soon start to see more money rolling into their bank account. Of course, that's always welcome, but particularly now when Canadians are still feeling the severe impacts of the affordability crisis. So let's focus on the 5 provinces where the minimum wage is going up as of today. They include Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island. And here is a look at the wage increase for each province. In Ontario specifically, it is going up 40 cents from $17.20 an hour to $17.60 per hour. And according to the Government of Ontario, that'll support more than 800,000 workers. On average, it claims, putting more than $800 into your pockets every year if you are currently on minimum wage. Now, jurisdictions tie their hikes to the Consumer Price Index or have their own approach. But of course, as I mentioned, it comes at a time where this money is much needed for so many. The provinces are increasing wages as Canadians continue to struggle with the high cost of living. All jurisdictions have raised their rates or plan to do so this year except Alberta. BC, Quebec, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland and Labrador raised their minimum wages earlier this year.
And Scott, as this is happening, affordability has long been a problem nationwide. And one of the big questions amid all of this is, will this be enough to sustain daily life costs? Despite the boost in minimum wage, it will not be enough in most of these provinces, really all of these provinces, to keep up with all the mounting bills, as affordability is still a significant problem and a significant concern right across the country, from affording your mortgage to buying groceries or paying rent. All remain a huge strain for so many. According to a report by the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives published earlier this year, focusing on renters, which it points out makes up about 1/3 of households in Canada, people living in major cities like Toronto, of course, but Vancouver and Ottawa, you need to earn more than double the new minimum wage to afford an average 2-bedroom rental apartment. Here's more from the Ontario Living Wage Network.
It's technically a raise for people at the lowest wage levels, but unfortunately, there's still no place, even after the increase, where you can work a full-time minimum wage job and still be able to make ends meet. If you look at how far your dollar goes, that raise doesn't look so good anymore.
So, Michelle, while hundreds of thousands will see a little bit more into their bank account, as you heard from advocates, still not enough to keep up with the ongoing affordability concerns. And on the flip side, we touched on this a little bit at noon yesterday. If you are a business, now the cost of minimum wage is higher, so they'll be impacted as well. Not just workers, but businesses as well. So this is something that, of course, is concerning right across the board, Michelle. CTV's Scott Hurst live for us in the CTV National Newsroom. Thank you. Thank you.
Toronto's mayor was on hand this morning to help launch a new mixed-income community in Leslieville.
The site will house 82 affordable homes. CTV's John Musselman was at the announcement this morning and joins us live with more details. John.
Well, Nathan, they're just on a tour inside some of the buildings here, but I'll just give you a shot of what we're talking about here. These are two large buildings on Queen near Coxwell Avenue. The address is actually Eastern Avenue. Now, this is a new mixed housing project in conjunction with the City of Toronto, Toronto Community Housing and private developers. It's replacing what used to be here, Toronto Community Housing, that was units for about 120 people. Now we have about 700 to 800 units here, mixed-use units for condo owners and geared to income tenants. So the mayor was here to talk about this partnership and why it's important to the city, and also in conjunction with some private developers who also agreed to take part in this project, which took about 5 years to complete. Here's what Mayor Olivia Chow had to say just a short time ago.
We want to replicate what we're doing here at Don Somerville, which is turning a building into a mixed income neighborhood with playgrounds, with new buildings, with cooperatives, and building a lot more homes that people can afford. This is a model we want to replicate it, because from two small buildings to now 800 homes for families, for cooperatives, for artists, with playgrounds and with shops and mixed income. So this is the great model that we want to copy.
And the mayor went on to say this is really all about promoting more housing in the city of Toronto, which is desperately needed. The mayor did tour some of the units. We'll have some video of that we'll have on CTV News at 5 and 6. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
All right, thank you, John. A portion of a high-rise apartment building in New York City has collapsed, leaving a corner of the building in a pile of rubble. It happened shortly after 8 this morning. The fire department responded to a report of a gas explosion that apparently collapsed an incineration shaft in the 20-story building in the Bronx. Despite the building being city-owned public housing, authorities say no residential units were affected, and the city's fire department says it has no reports of injuries. New York Mayor Eric Adams has been briefed about the incident, and he's asked people to avoid the area for their safety.
The blame game has begun in Washington after Republicans and Democrats in Congress failed to avert a government shutdown last night.
Today, we're in the middle of the Schumer shutdown. The Democrats have caved in to the radical wing of the Democrat Party, caved in completely, abandoned the American people in the process. And why? Well, one of the reasons is Chuck Schumer wants to try to prove to somebody that he's more liberal than AOC.
Republicans thought that they could barrel us into a shutdown because they didn't want to protect the health care of the American people. Well, now they've seen they can't bully us, they can't barrel us. They don't have the votes to push their partisan bill through that did nothing to protect American health care.
There was no agreement by 12:01 this morning to keep government programs and services running. Now, about 750,000 federal workers are expected to be furloughed. Democrats are pushing for more health care funds. The White House says Republicans want to resolve that issue but won't negotiate until the government reopens. A state of emergency has been declared in Philippines province today after a powerful earthquake left at least 69 people dead. A 6.9 magnitude earthquake struck central Philippines late Tuesday. The province of Cebu was hardest hit, declaring a state of emergency as thousands spent the night outdoors amid strong aftershocks. This comes just over a week after back-to-back typhoons killed more than a dozen people.
The Oktoberfest Fairgrounds in Munich is closed this morning after a bomb threat. The threat came from the same person suspected of causing an explosion in northern Munich.
Well, a little irritated because we had reservations for this morning, and now we don't know if we'll have them for this evening, but better safe than sorry.
I mean, I assume someone is just making a prank call, but I imagine it's probably fine, and they'll sweep the place, so we'll see.
The fairgrounds closure comes as at least one person's death is believed to be connected to an explosion at a residential building that Munich police say was deliberately set. It's not clear whether the victim is the suspected perpetrator or someone else. Officials discovered the Oktoberfest bomb threat in a letter from the alleged perpetrator. The fairgrounds, which usually attract up to 6 million visitors, has been searched by police. Authorities say the festival will be closed for several hours.
Back here at home in Ottawa, the federal industry minister spoke today about the changing dynamics in trade and bilateral relations with the United States.
With the arrival of President Trump, we saw that trade was being used in bilateral relations in a different way than previous American administrations, to say the least. So now what we're seeing is that there's a link between security and the economy. And for decades, we've counted on stable allies, open trade, and an ever-expanding consumer base. But today, global markets are shifting.
Mélanie Joly kicked off the Competition Bureau's annual summit. She says the government is going to be hawkish on competition in a bid to ease the cost of living. Lindsay.
Well, I think many of us will remember September for being a pretty lovely month here in the GTA. We had many dry days, lots of sunshine. We almost hit 30 degrees on September 18th. But in the end, we also had a fair amount of rain. It was just a couple of days, but it tallied up to more than 100 millimeters. Now, October generally brings us less in the way of rainfall. It also, of course, brings us cooler temperatures. Also, about 0.2 centimeters of snow on average. Maybe the first flurries, but usually we don't see our first snow in Toronto until November. No snow in the forecast. In fact, it is going to be feeling like summer all over again later this week. We have a detailed look at your 7-day forecast. After this, stay with us.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
Well, the lake is glistening. It is a beautiful day, and you probably felt it this morning. It felt fresh, but it wasn't so bad, especially, too, that it's now nice this afternoon.
I did catch some people in shorts and T-shirts thinking that, you know, it's going to be nice out because it looks nice, but they're going to have to wait a couple days.
Well, here's the thing. I was doing the clothing changeover for my kids. I thought, okay, is it time to put away the shorts and T-shirts?
No.
It is not. This is the problem. We will definitely need them this weekend. Today, yeah, might be a good day for a jacket or a sweater. Welcoming October with some seasonal temperatures, which is nice considering we still have the sunshine. There's a crispness in the air, but as early as, I'm going to say Friday, we're going to be sweating again. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers, you don't pay unless they win. I want to talk about this morning's sunrise. It was gorgeous once again, and the sun is now rising at about 7:15. Do you want to know what our sunset time is going to be tonight? 6:59 p.m. So yes, the sun now setting before 7 o'clock. That's okay. On days like this where we have loads of sunshine, it doesn't sting quite as much that the days are getting shorter, does it? Just before we talk about your local forecast, I do want to bring you up to speed on Hurricane Umberto. That is now post-tropical, so no longer a hurricane, but we are still keeping our eye on Imelda because this storm is going to be impacting Bermuda as early as tonight and then through the day tomorrow, potentially as a Category 2 hurricane. So this is something to watch. Swells are going to continue to impact the coast of the United States, but once again, that storm system, for the most part, veering away from the North American shore. So that's a good news situation for many Americans. Satellite and radar want to point out the fact that our area of high pressure over the lower Great Lakes is one of the factors steering those hurricanes away from North America. So acting as somewhat of a shield. Tomorrow, I do expect that we're going to see a little more in the way of cloud. It's a beautiful blue sky today. There's your Thursday. Mix of sun and cloud, maybe even mainly cloudy skies at times, but by Friday, we are back into wall-to-wall sunshine. The weekend brings us a sun-cloud mix once again, and also some very hot temperatures. It's 20 degrees right now in Windsor. That's about as hot as it gets currently in Ontario. We are now at 16 degrees in the city of Toronto, on our way to a forecast daytime high of 18. which is on the warm side of seasonal. 17 is our average high this time of year. Evening at a glance, clear skies, light winds, 14 for the evening hours, 9 through the overnight. No frost advisories in place right now in southern Ontario, but keeping an eye once again on places like Bancroft and Peterborough, where the overnight low is going to be close to the freezing mark. And then tomorrow, a little bit of a temperature rebound, 21 degrees, so we are above seasonal. Back up around 25 degrees on Friday, feeling like 28. Let's talk about the weekend. Highs of 27 degrees for both Saturday and Sunday. That is about 10 degrees above seasonal. It's going to feel into the 30s. The sunshine continues until about Monday night and into Tuesday, when we could get a few much-needed showers. That's the weather for now. Michelle, over to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. As Ontario plans to remove automated speed cameras, there are serious concerns about the province's ability to keep up with charges against alleged bad drivers.
The number of failed prosecutions is skyrocketing, denying justice to many people injured on the road. CTV's John Woodward took a look at the numbers as part of a W5 investigation.
It's really hard to breathe.
That's why Sabrine Chanda does these exercises every day, physiotherapy to recover from one of the worst moments of her life. She was riding her bicycle down College Street at University Avenue in Toronto a year ago.
All this pain comes down to basically one instant.
Yeah. Someone made a left turn and didn't look to see who was already in the bike lane.
How badly were you hurt?
It was really bad. I had so many facial fractures, like teeth and cheekbone and jaw, and the concussion, of course.
The driver was charged, but months later in court, the prosecution dropped the case.
I was just in complete shock.
Chanda, not the only one. Sarah Dermody was doored while riding on Queen Street in Toronto in 2023.
It knocked me over on my side, so I hit my hip and my shoulder and my head.
The driver was charged with dooring, but didn't get court disclosure.
And as a result, the ticket was dropped altogether.
What was your reaction hearing about that?
It's really upsetting.
It turns out drop charges against drivers are on the rise in Ontario. Court statistics show in 2019 about 57,000 Highway Traffic Act charges were withdrawn before trial. This year, that rose to more than 253,000, about 10% of all charges laid. W5 checked other provinces for a similar pattern, nothing like that in BC, Alberta, or Quebec. In March, a justice of the peace described Ontario's provincial offences prosecution as a system in shambles. It appears the prosecutor's office lacks an effective and proper file management system, saying it's a patchwork system that is held together by some baling wire and twine, with a hope and a prayer thrown in for good measure. Lawyer David Shellnut says faith in the system is at stake.
That small little sense of justice that they're hoping for vanishes.
Yeah. One of the things that we noticed in the statistics is that this problem is getting worse.
What it tells us is that there isn't the correct focus on safe streets out there.
Meanwhile, Ontario plans to remove automated speed cameras. The province's transportation minister insisted rogue drivers are still going to be punished.
Ontario, one of the toughest jurisdictions, whether it's on stunt driving, whether it's on impaired driving, all of those offenses were increased in fines and penalties.
Those penalties never came in Chanda's case.
It's like a huge slap in the face. Like, how could it happen this way?
She worries dangerous drivers won't have any reason to change.
John Woodward, CTV News, Toronto.
After the break, the feds put the brakes on a plan to move Marineland's beluga whales to China. We'll have their reasoning in moments.
The federal government has rejected a proposal from Marineland to export 30 beluga whales to China.
This is a very difficult decision to make, but it is rooted in the Fisheries Act, and I'm proud that in Canada we do have an act that is very specific around the treatment of whales in particular and how it is not okay to keep them in captivity.
Marineland has not opened this year and has been selling off parts of its Ontario theme park. In 2019, Ottawa passed the Ending Captivity of Whales and Dolphins Acts and banned the practice of breeding them for entertainment. Ontario's premier also reacted to the federal announcement, saying he wants the government to take action.
not just going to China. We can look at other areas that will take these whales. You know, we don't have to move all 30 in one shot, a couple here, a couple there, and we want them to survive. And if they don't, well, the federal government has to answer on that one.
In Atlantic Canada, 3 sperm whales stranded off PEI's North Shore have now died. CTV's Maria Saru has more.
The sperm whales were spotted far away in the waters behind me off the coast of PEI's East Bideford. Colossal creatures stranded where surf meets sand. These animals swim in deep waters, so seeing 3 this close to the shore is really strange.
We're not sure if the animals simply got confused and sort of made a wrong turn, or if there's something underlying in terms of their health.
Tanya Wimmer with Mars, the Marine Animal Response Society, says boaters reported the whales Saturday evening. 1 died that night, another the next day. The whales are too heavy for humans to move, and the right safety equipment can't go where they're located. So now Wimmer says responders' hands are tied.
It is an absolutely heartbreaking decision to have to make in terms of letting nature take its course.
She adds Mars is working with its partners to try and do necropsies, seeking clues about injury, illness, or something else. Maria Saru, CTV News.
It's deja vu for some Nova Scotia residents, and not the good kind. A wildfire burning out of control has prompted evacuations in the Annapolis Valley.
Monday, conditions changed, winds picked up, and the fire shifted back to out of control, which means it is growing or could easily grow. That's why DNR recommended evacuations, and municipality issued evacuation orders supported by the Department of Emergency Management.
Officials say more evacuations are possible as dry and windy conditions threaten to fuel the fire. Water bombers from New Brunswick and the Northwest Territories are helping with the firefight, and planes from Quebec are on the way.
For a 5th straight year, the Toronto Maple Leafs are the NHL's most valuable franchise. That, according to Sportico, a digital company which specializes in the business end of the sports world. Sportico claims the Leafs are worth $4.25 billion, and that's a 16% jump in value over last year. They peg the average value of an NHL team at $2.1 billion. After the Leafs, Sportico has the New York Rangers coming in second on the list. Montreal rounds out the top 3.
Meanwhile, the puck drops on the 3rd season of the PWHL on Friday, November 21st. The Toronto Scepters will be in Minnesota that day to start their season. Toronto's first home game is November 29th when they host the Boston Fleet for the 2nd season in a row. The league's 2 new expansion teams will be at Coca-Cola Coliseum in March, with Toronto welcoming Seattle on the 15th and Vancouver on the 29th. Single game tickets for the 2025-26 campaign will be available starting October 14.
Snapchat is going to start charging users a fee for storing their old photos and videos. People have been allowed to save and store previously posted content on the platform's Memories feature since 2016. But anyone with more than 5 gigabytes of that content will have to pay to keep it available. It's unclear what the storage plans will cost and what Snapchat says will be a gradual global rollout. The messaging app says more than 1 million memories, will make that trillion memories, have been saved since the feature was introduced.
An artificially generated actor named Tilly Norwood is starting to get some attention, and some in Hollywood are not pleased. The AI thespian has created by actor and comedian Aline van der Velden. Tinseltown's Powerful Actors Union has condemned it. So have A-list stars Emily Blunt, Natasha Lyonne, and Whoopi Goldberg. The Dutch creator says Norwood is not a replacement for a human being, but a piece of art.
Still to come, funding to temporarily house asylum seekers in hotels ended yesterday. Now there's concern that will lead to a resurgence of homeless refugees on city streets.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
A new report reveals the 2nd quarter of the year brought a sharp rise in credit card fraud. Equifax Canada says the rate of credit card fraud jumped to 0.75% in Q2, compared with 0.44% a year earlier. The Consumer Credit Reporting Agency says the spike came despite application fraud rates across Canada falling to their lowest point since 2022. Application fraud rates dropped to 0.56% in the 2nd quarter of 2025, down from 0.70% in the previous year.
A former RBC worker accused of accessing Prime Minister Mark Carney's banking profile is set to make a court appearance today. 23-year-old Ibrahim El Hakim is charged with fraud over $5,000, unauthorized use of a computer, identity theft, and trafficking in identity information. El Hakim worked at an RBC branch in Ottawa. It's alleged he used the bank's IT services for criminal purposes, including unauthorized access to multiple banking profiles and fraud.
As September ended, so too did funding to temporarily house asylum seekers in hotels across Canada. Advocates say the result could be a resurgence of homeless refugees on the streets of Canada's biggest cities. CTV's Adrian Gabriel has more.
This is where we housed over 500 men.
Wow. In the summer of 2023, when the number of asylum claimants sleeping on the streets outside this downtown Toronto shelter became too large to ignore.
But this is my shelter. Yeah, this is my house now.
Pastor Julia James opened up her church, Revival Time Tabernacle.
We had to put drapes across these poles here to house women on this side.
To give hundreds fleeing a number of African nations somewhere safe to rest their heads for 2 months.
Just making sure that they were given a level of peace in the midst of their trauma.
Today, temporary federal funding to house asylum seekers in hotels across the country ended. Pastor James is fearful history could repeat itself.
Some have gotten jobs, some haven't. Some have been able to get housing, which we're grateful for, but some have not, because there were so many that came in.
Previously pitched as a stopgap in the face of historic surges in migration, Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship Canada says the federal government has spent roughly $1.1 billion on temporary housing at hotels like this one in Toronto's North End on asylum seekers since 2020. Yet Toronto's mayor says the federal government is still shortchanging Canada's largest city.
And the city is short by $107 million.
West of Toronto, this asylum intake center is nearly full, according to those we spoke with who are staying here. With homeless shelters near capacity in many urban centers and hotel funding no longer an option, some advocates believe Canada is abandoning those we welcomed in.
It is not just an initial take-in, it has to be the systems funneling to ensure that they're served with dignity. Dignity is what humanity deserves.
Just how many asylum claimants are still searching for permanent housing remains unclear. We've asked Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada. We're still awaiting a response. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, Mississauga, Ontario.
Coming up, a young athlete from the GTA has her sights set on the Olympics, hoping both she and the sport in which she competes will be part of the Games in 2032. We'll have more on her story after the break.
A young fighter from the GTA earned gold on the world stage just over a week ago.
Now she has her sights set on the Olympics. CTV's Carol Charles has more on her journey.
The Canadian landing many hits.
At just 16 years old, Oshaya Newby Morgan has made a name for herself on the international stage, winning gold for Team Canada at the 2025 International Federation of Muay Thai Association's Youth World Championships in Abu Dhabi. She stepped into the ring and left, defeating competitors from Morocco and Russia to become the best in her division.
It felt good. I was like, I finally have made it. This is what I've been training for. This is it.
Newby Morgan's athletic journey began with martial arts at the age of 7. But a move from Brampton to Shelburne in 2020 also came with a change in the sport for which she was training. She took up the art of Muay Thai at the Art of 8 Martial Arts Academy in Orangeville.
I enjoy that it's the art of 8 limbs, meaning you have your elbows that we use our punches, we use our kicks and our knees.
For the past 5 years, she has trained under her coach, Crew Martello.
Greatness. Greatness is the only word that he suspects of me.
She exceeded my expectation. She executed the game plan right down to the T.
He credits her discipline and work ethic as a huge part of her success. And
low kicks, absolutely low kicks. Like, she hits like a truck when she's kicking people's legs. And that power and precision from her low kicks has become like it's a major part of her game.
And Newbie Morgan's biggest fan is her mom, who watched the gold medal match with pride.
It was breathtaking. It was adrenaline rush. It was so words couldn't explain sometimes the feeling I was feeling. She is a support system. She is the heart that is in mine.
Newbie Morgan is now the first athlete from Dufferin County to win gold at an IFMA event, and the first Black Canadian female to achieve gold.
She is a definite inspiration to other young Black women who also look to her and say, you know what, I want to be like her. And she's breaking barriers, she's opening doors, and that's what counts.
Oshaya will continue training to stay ready for the 2032 Olympics if Muay Thai is accepted in the Games. Carol Charles, CTV News.
Boxing or any sport, this is good weather for outdoor training and exercise.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you just might feeling, today is good. Next couple of days, you'll be feeling the heat. You'll need some extra water and some sunscreen, too. We have to mention that as well. The sun is still strong, even though we are now past the summer season. Overnight tonight, cool, seasonably cool. 9 degrees for the low under mainly clear skies. Tomorrow's forecast daytime high, 21 degrees, so starting to warm up again. If you're hoping to hit the links, why not? This week is great for that. We are back into some heat for the weekend. 27 degrees for both Saturday and Sunday, feeling more like 31. Nathan and Michelle.
Thank you, Lindsay. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great afternoon.